see something, I see it in myself, and I see it in a lot of men. I think a lot of men are better at fantasy than we are at reality. And let me unpack that a little bit. I one time got hooked just recently on Netflix. Every morning I work out, I run on the treadmill, and I love running on my torture device with my iPad right in front on the treadmill. And I've watched all sorts of, I usually watch like the History Channel shows or Discovery Channel shows. And one day I said, oh, show 24. You know, many people have seen the show 24 when it was on several years ago. I think it had 9 seasons. And for whatever reason, I never watched 24. But I said, well, let me just watch one episode. So I watched one episode while I was running on my treadmill. I was like, so-so. I said, well, let me watch another episode. So I watched episode 2. And there's enough in episode 2 to start getting me interested. And so then I said, well, okay, I'll give it a few more. Before I knew it, I'm dead serious, I was on vacation with my family, and I looked down to play the next episode. It was only 2 weeks later. I was on episode 35. I just thought to myself, what in the world happened? I noticed that some of the books I was wanting to read next to my nightstand, the pile was getting taller. I was noticing that times when my kids wanted to swim in our pool, I'd say, oh no guys, I'll sit over it. Daddy will sit next to the pool. I've got some things to do. And I'd pull up my phone or my iPad and keep watching 24. And I've been around friends that are so into fantasy football. They're so into fantasy basketball. They're into World of Warcraft or whatever it may be. And once again, what we're doing is we're being consumed by things that are fighting for justice or that are all these things that we need to meditate on, like learning all the stats of baseball. And men can be so great at building these World of Warcraft kingdoms, at meditating on all this information, devoting ourselves to so many things, and none of it's real. And none of it, yes, you can make a case. I know I have friends that make a case of saying, oh man, when I'm my fantasy football friends, we have great community there. And I get that there's some redeeming aspects of those things. But this is my thing. I don't think fantasy stuff is wrong at all. But if your fantasy stuff is hurting your reality, then I think you're way out of whack. And biblically you're out of whack, and your wife will tell you you're messed up. And women can do this too with Pinterest and Facebook and all those things too. I go to Pinterest once in a while, but not as much as my wife does. But anyway, we can easily get out of balance. And I think that the test is are you in balance with your reality? If you're killing it with your reality, then fantasy football is fine. But if you're killing fantasy football and your reality is so-so, then we got to do something drastic. You got to make a course correction. So I am stuck on episode 35 on 24. I said, I'm not pushing play. I think I'm 9 minutes into episode 35 on season 2 of 24 because I said, I got to take care of my reality. I want to get to the point where my wife is like, baby, you're just so engaged at home. You are killing it with the kids. Our relationship is growing. It's growing better than colder. You're doing good here. Yeah, go be a part of that fantasy football league. But if your wife is wanting you and yearning for you to get closer, your kids are wanting more of you, and you feel like you have no time to do those things, and you're not engaged at church, and the pastor is preaching things, and you say, man, I wish I could do that if I had more time. Well, it's because you're spending all your time in fantasy and not killing it in reality. And so what I've done is I've had to make a change, and that's what I encourage everybody to do, is say the best test of if you have margin for fantasy is how are you doing with reality? With the reality that God has called us to live to, with what our spouse is communicating to us, what our kids, what our friends are communicating to us, and make sure that your reality is sound before you venture into fantasy.